Today I'm with Stephen from Linten Technologies, and we're going to look at how we're going to take his business from 2 million to 5 million revenue. So you say you're hitting this sort of 2 million threshold. You will stay there, and some people like to stay there. There's nothing wrong with businesses staying at that 2 million if that's what you want. But if you want to go higher, you've then got to change the business. Something's got to change.
We can't keep doing what we've always been doing without probably more than tripling the number of members of staff that we've got handling this process.
You then know ultimately you've got this set of data to report on, and that's how PSA is going to do it.
And that sounds like music to my ears.
But Stephen, tell us a little bit about Linten Technologies for the audience.
So Linten Technologies, we're in our 26th year now. We've got about 650 customers. We almost at 2 million turnover, so we're just trying to break over that next threshold. Our journey has taken us from North Yorkshire right the way over to Manchester, where we're currently based in Old Trafford. The sort of services that we offer are all your typical IT services and telecom services. We tend to focus on compliant businesses, so this will be your finance people, it will be your solicitors, people like that, people that have to do something where they have to be able to audit what they're doing and prove what they've done. And that's what we specialise in. But when I say that, we've got customers across all different bases. We've made acquisitions over the years, and some of those have come with lots of manufacturing-based clients. So it means that we've got quite an eclectic customer base, and it means that we get involved in a lot of different and exciting projects.
So two key numbers here that Stephen just mentioned that really jump out to me. 2 million in revenue, 650 customers. This is a really high cost of delivery into those 650 customers. We're looking at around £240 a month from each customer. That is not a lot of money to play with when we want to deliver excellent service around strategic business reviews, account management, delivery of service, and delivery of yourself from an R&D and a development point of view. We've definitely got to be looking at cross-selling and uplifting these customers. Within a net new customer introduction, we would say 6 months is the key area to deliver cross-selling. We want to maximise the revenue per customer out of our client base, not going after customers and just getting one service in particular. We need to be really driving that cross-selling, and the first thing I would say to Stephen is analysing his customer base, looking at what services they don't have, really driving those services into there as a strategic angle, and if they don't, at some point we have to cut and release them back to the wild. They don't fit his model that he's trying to deliver in his MSP. So we've got to be really strategic with the data and make some real ruthless decisions and some real strategic angles to drive this business forward to just reduce that cost of delivery. So you say you're hitting this sort of 2 million threshold, and we would call this like a glass ceiling. You will stay there, and some people like to stay there. There's nothing wrong with businesses staying at that 2 million if that's what you want. But if you want to go higher, you've then got to change the business. Something's got to change to get past that ceiling, otherwise you will stay under that ceiling. So that's where our journey started. Our journeys come together. Linten want to go on a maturity journey, an automation journey to bring in some of that simple IT that you're doing at the minute that's actually creating a cost in the business. So you want to now mature your systems, mature your process, mature your leadership team to deliver them systems without an extra cost. So we started the journey together, and one of the things that we've identified is real critical at the beginning is finance. So tell us a bit about how finance works today.
Right now, we've got a lot of manual processes when it comes to our finance section. So we use Xero as our invoicing platform and where we do all of our accounting and bookkeeping. We use Halo as our system for managing all interactions with our customers. And then we have a separate quoting arm where we use Quotient at the moment, and that is, yes, there's some integrations between them. So for example, Quotient will push into Xero to create the invoices, but there is still a lot of manual intervention into that process. And for us, it's been about actually making sure the process is streamlined for our customers, making sure they only have one invoice a month, making sure that we are making IT simple. And that can only take us so far. So it's not sustainable. If we wanted to, for example, double in size, we can't keep doing what we've always been doing without probably more than tripling the number of members of staff that we've got handling this process. So that's why we reached out to you guys to actually help us with the automation, the process, and making these things work better for our clients, to give our clients the same experience but better and more sustainable.
Another key item here is the strategy of delivering a USP that you want for your customers. I'm all in, being different, making IT simple, which is their motto. But we have to be thinking about what's the cost of delivery. So we have to either raise our prices or we reduce the cost of delivery. Key thing here is he's gone after a tool, an external sales tool that doesn't integrate into the business. That has created complexity, manual errors, and cost of delivering that month in, month out. So the key item here is we need to be thinking about cost of delivery when we are looking at how we're going to do business. How are we going to push the business forward and stand out? Also has to be how much money we're going to make out of this. We are a business. We have to make money to survive. So the top three things here is in your R&D strategy, we must have cost of delivery as a line item. Next one is the tools we use must integrate to all levels that we need of data points. And the third one is we don't do any strategy unless we can scale it efficiently. And this 2 million ceiling, one of the things that we identified was that you're actually critical to this finance process as we stand today. So you're actually the one that is bringing some of this manual work, but also knowledge, because you've got the knowledge of how this thing has evolved from the Yorkshire Pines over to Manchester. I didn't even know that bit. I really want to talk about sheep, but we'll leave that bit out of this because I think that might upset some people. So you've got a ceiling. One of the things is getting you out that chair. You need to be on the business, delivering in the business, not doing this finance role. So how do we get it in the system?
One of our core goals for this current 12-month period, our goal number 5 as it happens, is actually removing me more from the operational side of the business. And right now, when we started off, of course, back in the day, I would send the audio voice, I would do all of those bits and pieces. It was quite simple and straightforward. As we've grown, that process has remained the same. And we've always had this want to change our process. And whilst we were always wanting to change it, there was no point in me training up lots of members of staff to be able to do the bits and pieces that I was doing, because it was such a small part of my day. Now that small part of my day has turned into 2 full days a month doing finance related activities. And that can't grow, and it also conflicts with our goal 5 as well.
So a key area here for Stephen is not uncommon. The leader of the business is still delivering too much operational value. So Stephen references roughly 2 days a week in finance. I think that's a bit undercutting it at 2 million turnover revenue. Probably spending a lot more time doing and thinking about finance than he should. So what we see here is startup business that has got the owner wearing all these finance roles. Nothing wrong with that. But at 2 million turnover, we want to be moving up a level. And this is where we talk about generalists. So we need to be hiring generalists to do certain finance functions in your business that you are extracting yourself from. So if you think about all the hats you wear as an owner, we've now removed a couple of hats onto the generalist, but you still own the strategy and accountability, and you're probably double checking the information. Then the next level up is we want to look at specialists. So we now want to be hiring specialist finance people that have got the qualifications and the history to deliver the business as usual finance, be accountable for it, and create the strategy, budgets, etc. for the business moving forward, to completely remove all the hats from you as the owner so you can focus on the business, not in the business, delivering daily financial tasks. Yeah, and you're not getting some data, because I just know if it's taking you 2 days, there'll be data that's missing in your business. You now need, again, this 2 million ceiling, remove you from this business, but also you need more data, and it needs to be accurate. You need to be making decisions on that data to drive the business forward. Who's profitable, what services are profitable, what's not profitable, how do you drive that forward as a business?
So when it was just me, Darren, now we'd be looking at this, you get a really good feeling. You get to know whether something's right. But now we've been building an SLT team, and we've got those people that also need that information to be able to make decisions each day. Now me being the one that has all of that knowledge, because I'm processing the invoices and seeing the figures every day, just doesn't work. So we actually are now in a position where we, for example, I would have a gut feeling, is that customer a good customer? Are they profitable? Is it somebody we want to continue working with? But the team don't necessarily know that. And that's where data is important.
So Stephen's talking about here how much is involved in finance and how much is involved in the MRR, invoicing run, payroll run, etc. This is a real risk to the business, and one that as leaders we need to pull ourselves out of for one key reason. This business cannot continue if it doesn't create revenue, input into the bank, or payroll. People don't tend to stay around when you don't pay them for a month. We've seen this a lot through the community that I've been in, where for whatever reason, the owner is no longer available. You not being able to produce payroll or create revenue for the business, there is no business. So let's make it where the functions in the business mean there are multiple people that can produce payroll, that can complete revenue input into this business. Having it where you are the only person in the business feels like to you, it's risky if people can do it and other people can see payroll. There is no risk here. Have the right people on your team that you can trust with this information and deal with it correctly when you're not around. Even better, they do it all the time and you are the backstop if they aren't around. So what we're talking about as well is we can't have all the top of the mountain leaning to Steve, because Steve only has so many 60 hours, and I'm sure you don't want to continue in 60 hours a week. So we need to remove Steve from the top of there and empower people to know what's the question and what's the answer.
So I like that.
Where's that holiday? I can see the holidays coming. So what we've got really, typically in most MSPs, we've got a PSA. And this PSA needs to be the center of what we do. It's got the functional area of finance built into this. But not only the finance, we've got to think about, we're going to impact finance, but we also need to think about other parts of the team. So when we think about projects teams, those teams want to know, where's the PO? So, is it on hand? Or is it still on order when they're delivering the project? They want to know, what's the budget? They want to know, what's my budget into this? What's my labour cost into this? What's the end date we're looking for? And all of that comes from an opportunity inside the PSA. So what we've got is from your point of view, the problem we've got here today is quotient. If we think about it going this way, quotient is your CPQ. So this is, your order that the customer is doing. So they do an order, that then needs to flow into an opportunity inside the PSA. That's the bit that's missing at the minute. So because you don't get your products, your cost, your retail price, and your scope of work, that's the bit you're missing that then affects your project team and your MRR. Because we talk about here being elastic band. These links is the elastic band. So when we break them, we lose the next jump. But not only do we lose the next jump, we also lose the overarching bit, which is the reporting, the data. So when we talk about we need more data, what we actually need is a full workflow in the PSA that's got the elastic bands that then delivers your finance. Because here we're going to have the NRR invoice and the MRR invoice, and even better, we're going to have the project and service COGS So the time that they're consuming to do this delivery, to then ultimately get the true GM percentage and the profit. You know, what profit are we making out of all these invoices and all this delivery?
And I can see how that flow would really help, and it's kind of where we wanted to get to, but we've just not been able to see the wood for the trees on all of this, because we've implemented a lot of systems over the years and we've been led to dead ends, things not working in the right way. And this is exactly what you're describing here, is exactly what we're wanting to do. And we do elements of this, but it doesn't actually give us the overall picture of data, and the data is what is key.
Yeah, because most of the time what we find is, without somebody knowing it, they break this elastic band. So they may have this flow up to here, but this product here hasn't been set up right. So is it an MRR? Is it a product? You know, is it inventory or non-inventory? That's what tells it to then go on the next journey.
Yeah.
So when we've got a product that's been set up as maybe an inventory, and we want to convert it into an agreement, well, the system goes, that's not an agreement item, so I'm not going to allow you to do that. So then you think, well, okay, well, I'll just create an agreement myself. And you go off and create the agreement on the products, and that elastic band gets
And that's what we've been guilty of.
yeah. And typically what we find is, because you've gone through, let's say, an implementation, you've gone through a consulting phase, but what's actually happened is someone's taught you, here's 60 tick boxes, and here's what you need to do with them, and there's your homework. Go and deliver that, Steve. So when you go and deliver it, maybe you tick the wrong box, or you don't understand what that box means. So then you think, the system just can't do it, or I want to do it. And then you overlap it with a manual action, and that manual action breaks the elastic band. So Stephen mentioned data is king. I totally agree with this. Let's stop doing muscle and feel and our gut reactions, and let's have the right data in the system and the right reports going to the right individuals to make sure we make the right decisions off the back of data, not just our feelings. He also mentioned another key item of moving softwares, having multiple softwares in the business, going down a certain track to then having to pull back because it doesn't deliver what we thought it was going to deliver. This is a real common problem, nice shiny toy object that all of us leaders have in the technical industry space. So we need to make sure we have a key outline of every tool we're going to go into, the deliverables, the impact, and the money we want to make off it before we move anywhere. And we need to make sure we're not just sprawling our software. Sometimes we get customers coming to us saying, I want to move into a project tool. That might give you one little element that you can't do in the PSA today, but the impact of putting all of that data into a different system is a massive negative just to gain that one little thing. So often the value and the reward just isn't enough to take us down that avenue. So just think about that when you're looking at that new shiny toy object. So what we're going to do for you is different. So we're not going to teach you the 60 tick boxes. What we're going to do is totally reverse this and say, what data do we want to deliver on as a business? So this then tells us how complicated the PSA needs to be and how complicated your processes, your training of your team, and the whole workflow. You know, what level do we need to be on? So for instance, if we want to do profitability at customer level, well, potentially we just need one agreement in the PSA with all your services within it, and that's what we'll use. That's a lot simpler. But if we want service level profitability, i.e. I want to look at a report that says this customer is 60% profitable, but actually I know that their IT is 50, their backup is 70, their projects have run at a loss. If we want to know that level of data, what we actually need is the agreements to be split into services. And likewise, if we want our sales team to have a white space analysis or a cross-selling report, we need those split into services, because what we can do then is role reverse it and say, what don't they have? Because we know exactly what they have, so what don't they have?
And I can see the benefits of actually having all of these products and services for customers in the PSA.
Yeah.
Because at the moment we've got separate systems where if our team want to be able to say, well, what does somebody got? They've got to look somewhere else, and they're chopping and changing between systems. And the inefficiency of that can only be detrimental. So if we can actually get rid of that step, we're going to streamline the process even more.
And the service desks know exactly what they deliver at that point. But ultimately, what's even better, what they don't deliver. And then what we tend to find is your project revenue goes up because actually we stop over delivering and we deliver more projects and we charge them for them. So what we're going to do is actually take this data analysis, build that out into reports and say, okay, here's what we want these data points to look like. That whole package then will get delivered into the PSA. So we'll do config in the PSA, we'll do processes, stroke SOPs, whatever you want to call them. We'll do training for the team, and we'll deliver the reporting, and that will be SLT level, department level, and the individual level. So that will be the deliverables for this action. End to end, you then know ultimately you've got this set of data to report on, and that's a PSA code to do it.
And that sounds like music to my ears.
Amazing. So we'll take this forward, deliver this into the team, and let's make a difference and let's get you above that good old 2 million.
That would be amazing. Thank you very much for that.
Cool. So let's summarise this and let's look at the key outcomes for Stephen and his business. So first of all, PSA central to everything. If it didn't happen in the PSA, then it didn't happen. So we want to make sure the PSA is the central place for everything. Linked to that slightly is reducing this tool sprawl that he's got. Really shiny tool object. So we want to make sure we reduce software across all of his business. Let's look at what's the key items he really needs from the software. This will all then in turn empower all team members to know what good looks like. So we want to make sure we empower the team. Then, really key to his conversation was removing him as the owner from all the key financial functions. So we want to really remove the owner from functions in the day-to-day business. Then we talked about how many customers he has to the revenue he's creating. Real key strategy there is cross-selling, really gaining as much revenue from each customer that we can possibly with all of our software packages. So we want to really double down on that cross-selling strategy, and if they don't consume it, we eject those customers. So this is how we're going to get Stephen and his team from 2 million to 5 million in revenue as his target for the business to grow this asset. If you want to dig into these strategies and learn about the numbers that were created in this business, we've got a really strong asset and blog on this called the £1 Million MSP Playbook, and I'll link it below for you.